Days turned into weeks, but the fear never left me. Every morning, the village looked peaceful. Children played in the dust. Elders sat beneath the large trees, and smoke rose from the cooking fires as women prepared meals. But when the sun dipped, low and the shadows stretched across the ground, everything changed. The villagers vanished indoors before nightfall. Doors slammed. Windows were shuttered. No one stayed outside after dark, except me. At first, I didn't understand. I thought maybe it was just a village habit, something I'd get used to. But I soon realized it was fear that kept them inside, and I was starting to feel it too. The whispers grew clearer every night. They weren't distant anymore. They were closer, sharper, circling my house, slipping through the cracks of the walls. I lay in bed, paralyzed, as they called my name. Over and over. Kwame, Kwame. Kwame, I stopped telling my aunt. She wouldn't believe me. Each morning, when I woke up pale and shaking, she simply said, "The village is old. Spirits come and go. Do not speak to them." But I hadn't spoken. I had only listened. One night, the air became too heavy to breathe. The whispers didn't stop, even when I covered my ears. I curled into a ball on my mat, shaking, praying for morning. And then, I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps outside my door. Someone or something was circling the house. I forced myself to look. Through the cracks in the door, I saw a shadow. It wasn't human. Too tall, too thin. Its arms hung too long at its sides, dragging along the ground. It moved silently, except for those slow, heavy steps. I didn't sleep at all that night. In the morning, I found footprints. Strange three-toed prints circling the house. I knew then, whatever haunted this village had found me. Kofi, the boy from the village, approached me the next day. "You saw it, didn't you?" he whispered. I nodded, too scared to speak. "I can help you," he said. "But you have to promise not to tell anyone. If the elders find out, they'll leave you to the spirits." "What is it?" I finally asked. He looked around, then leaned closer. "There's something wrong with this village. It's not the spirits of the dead. It's older than that." "What do you mean?" He hesitated. "They call it the Watcher. It comes for anyone who stays after dark. My brother. It took him. I felt cold all over. I wanted to believe he was lying, but the fear in his eyes was real. "I'll show you," Kofi said. That evening, instead of hiding indoors, I followed him. We crept through the village as the sun sank behind the trees. Every door was bolted shut. The silence was crushing. Kofi led me to the old shrine at the edge of the village, a crumbling stone altar covered in strange carvings. I recognized them. The same symbols that were drawn inside my aunt's house. "What is this?" I whispered. "This is what keeps it here," Kofi replied. "The Watcher. Why doesn't anyone stop it?" "They can't. It's tied to the blood of the village." I didn't understand. Not yet. But that night, standing in front of the ancient shrine as the darkness swallowed the village, I realized something that sent shivers through my body. The whispers weren't coming from outside anymore. They were inside me, and the Watcher was coming. I remember the day my parents left me like it was yesterday. They had decided to take my younger sister with them to South Africa, hoping to give her a better future, leaving me behind in a small, remote village in Ghana to live with my aunt and uncle. I was only 10 years old, and the thought of being separated from them, especially for so long, terrified me. But they assured me it was for the best, that I would be fine with my relatives, and that they'd be back soon. The village was nothing like the bustling city I had grown up in. It was quiet, too quiet. It's a kind of quiet that made you feel like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. It was a far cry from the life I had known, and the feeling of being an outsider was impossible to shake off. When we arrived, The villagers greeted us with smiles, but there was something off about their expressions. They were polite, but their eyes, they seemed to linger on me a little too long, as if they were sizing me up, trying to figure out if I belonged or not. "Welcome to the village," my Aunt Akaswa said, her voice warm, but there was something about her tone that made me uneasy. The house I was staying in was a simple one-room structure made of clay and wood. It was old, but cozy. The walls were covered with strange symbols, some of which I recognized from the African stories my grandmother used to tell me. I figured it was just part of the culture, but the more I looked at them, the more they seemed out of place. Almost like they were watching me. The first night I spent there, I couldn't sleep. It wasn't the uncomfortable bed or the strange sounds of the village I wasn't used to. It was the silence. It was so still, so thick, that it felt like something was pressing down on me. Around midnight, I heard faint whispers. At first, I thought it was the wind, but it didn't sound like wind. It was almost like a voice, a distant murmuring that seemed to come from every direction. I pulled the covers over my head and tried to ignore it, but the whispers wouldn't stop. It was as if someone or something was speaking to me from outside, just beyond the walls of the house. I lay there in the dark, wide awake, listening to the murmurs. They didn't sound like any language I knew, but the tone was so familiar, almost like the voice of someone calling out to me. It was both comforting and terrifying, like something I should run from, but also something I couldn't escape. The next morning, when I asked my aunt about the whispers, she just smiled and told me it was probably just the wind playing tricks on me. "The village is old, Kwame," she said. "There are stories here, old stories, but don't worry about them." But the whispers didn't stop. Each night, they grew louder. Sometimes, I'd hear them in the middle of the day, when the village was supposed to be bustling with activity. I tried to talk to the other children in the village, but whenever I mentioned it, they'd look at me with wide eyes, as if I had said something wrong. There was one boy, Kofi, who seemed a little less afraid to speak to me. He was about my age, and his family lived on the other side of the village. One day, I asked him if he ever heard the whispers. "Don't listen to them," Kofi said in a low voice. "It's the spirits. They come when the moon is full." At first, I thought he was just trying to scare me, but there was something in his voice, something that made me realize he wasn't joking. "That's why we don't go outside at night," he continued. "The spirits wake up then, and if they find you..." He didn't finish his sentence, but the way he looked at me wide-eyed and fearful told me everything I needed to know. That night, I stayed in my room, too scared to leave. The moon hung high in the sky, casting long shadows across the village. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. The whispers grew louder, more distinct. It was as if they were coming from right outside my window, beckoning me to come out. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. I was trapped in that village, surrounded by the unknown. And that's when I realized something terrifying. The village wasn't just haunted by spirits. It was haunted by something far worse. One that had been passed down through generations, waiting for the next person to take its hold. And I was the next person. That night changed everything. The whispers didn't fade as the sun rose. They followed me into the daylight. I heard them even when the village was awake. Their soft voices lingering at the edge of my thoughts, like a song only I could hear. Kofi stayed close to me after that. He seemed to understand what was happening. He didn't ask questions, and I didn't offer explanations. I think he knew what I was too afraid to admit. I was marked. The elders watched us. Every time we passed them, their conversations stopped. Their eyes narrowed. My aunt stopped speaking to me as often. She cooked for me. She kept me inside after dark. But the way she looked at me changed. As if she knew something I didn't. As if she was waiting. Then, one morning, Kofi took me deeper into the forest behind the village. "There's something you need to see," he said. I followed him without question. I had nothing else, no answers, no help. Only Kofi. He led me to an abandoned part of the village. Old huts, overgrown with weeds. Doors rotted, windows boarded shut. It looked like no one had lived there for years. "This used to be part of the village," Kofi explained. "Until the Watcher came." I swallowed hard, looking at the empty houses. What happened to them? He didn't answer. Instead, he showed me something worse. Behind the huts stood a tree. A massive, ancient tree, its bark blackened like it had been burned. Strange carvings ran all along its trunk. Not symbols. Names. My name. Kwame. I stared, heart pounding. Kofi said nothing. "My name's on the tree," I whispered. "What?" "Been there longer than you've been alive," Kofi said. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. Why? Kofi looked down. Because the Watcher doesn't choose its victims. It waits. I didn't understand. Not yet. But I could feel the truth settling over me like dust. The Watcher was tied to me. Or worse, I was tied to it. That night, I demanded answers from my aunt. I begged her to explain why the villagers looked at me the way they did, why no one helped me, why the whispers never stopped. She sat in silence for a long time. Then she said the words I'll never forget. "Your grandfather was the first." The first what? She wouldn't say. But in her eyes, I saw the answer. The curse wasn't following me. It was inside me, and I was becoming something I couldn't escape. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner of my room, knees against my chest, listening to the whispers inside my mind. They weren't soft anymore. They were loud, like voices trapped behind a wall, shouting to be let out. I felt different, heavy, like something was sitting on my chest, pressing me down, keeping me trapped in my own body. I remembered what Kofi said, that the Watcher didn't choose its victims. It waited now. I understood what he meant. I wasn't just marked by the Watcher. I was becoming it. I felt it in my skin, in my blood. By midnight, the air grew colder, though the fire still burned. Then, the door creaked. I froze. I could hear it breathing. Something tall, something thin, standing just outside my door. Kwame. My name. It whispered my name, and then the door opened. I saw it, not clearly, not at first. A shadow, but the shape was wrong. Its arms stretched unnaturally long. Its head bent sideways as if its neck had been broken. Its body was made of darkness itself, but its eyes burned like hot coals. It stepped inside. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I could only watch. Then something strange happened. It didn't attack me. It knelt in front of me, its face inches from mine, and in that moment, I understood it. Wasn't there to hurt me. It was there to claim me. The Watcher was waiting for me to finish changing, for me to become like it. I felt its presence seep into my bones, and I wanted to scream, but my mouth wouldn't open. My mind was not my own anymore. Then, just as suddenly as it came, it vanished. The door slammed shut. I gasped for air. Morning came, but I knew I wouldn't survive another night. I ran to Kofi. "We have to stop it," I told him. But Kofi shook. His head, "You can't stop it. You are it." No. He led me back to the shrine. The old stone, cracked and forgotten. The only way to stop the Watcher is to bind it. How? By binding yourself. Kofi explained the old ritual. A dangerous ritual. One no one had performed in decades. One my grandfather had failed to complete. I realized then, the Watcher wasn't a spirit haunting the village. It was a legacy. A curse passed through my family, and now It was my turn. If I failed, the village would be consumed, and I would be lost forever. The sun set faster than usual. The village was dead silent. Doors bolted, windows dark. Even the animals were gone, as if the earth itself knew what was coming. Kofi stood beside me at the shrine. His hands trembled as he handed me the small, crude knife used for the ritual. "You have one chance," he whispered. I nodded, though fear consumed me. My mind was splitting. I could feel the watcher inside, pulling, whispering, begging me to let go. Each word it spoke inside my head sounded like my own voice now. "I am you, Kwame, and you are me." The moment night fell, the watcher returned. It stood at the edge of the village, watching. It didn't move. It didn't need to. I walked toward it. My legs shook. My body screamed at me to stop, to run, but I didn't. If I ran, it would follow me forever. If I failed, there would be no village left. At the shrine, I remembered what my aunt had said. My grandfather was the first, and he had failed. I wouldn't. I began the ritual. The old words were cracked and broken in my memory, but somehow the watcher guided me. It wanted me to speak them. It wanted me to finish, not to stop it, to release it. I hesitated. Then I saw it. Its face. My face. The watcher was me, or rather, what I would become. The curse wasn't passed down. It was created. Every generation, someone was chosen, not to carry the curse, to become the curse. And now it was my turn, unless I ended it. I raised the knife, chanting the last broken line. The watcher lunged. I stabbed the knife into the earth at the shrine's center. The ground split. Light burst from the cracks. The watcher screamed a horrible human scream that echoed through the trees, shaking the ground. The shadows ripped apart. It burned. And then, silence. I woke up at sunrise. Kofi stood over me, his eyes wide. "It's gone," he whispered. I was free. But the village wasn't. The curse was broken. But the whispers still lingered, because the shrine's cracks never closed. And deep within the earth, something still waits. And every night, even far from that village, I still hear my name whispered in the dark. Kwame, Kwame, Kwame. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment "end" so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, stay happy. Goodbye.